Welcome back to the channel and thank you for joining me today. My very important viewers, if you've ever looked at a tiny 1-cent coin and wondered how something so small could carry a story so massive, then you are in exactly the right place. Today we're exploring a United States 1-cent coin dated 1902, a piece of American history often casually called a Lincoln penny, even though it predates Abraham Lincoln's appearance on U.S. coinage. This single cent, with a face value so small it's often ignored or discarded, has been surrounded by stories, errors, mysteries, and theoretical valuations that reach as high as $5,200,000,000, a number so extreme that it forces us to rethink everything we believe about money, value, and rarity. At first glance, the 1902 1-cent coin appears unremarkable to the untrained eye. It is copper in color, modest in size, and easily mistaken for countless other old pennies. For decades, millions of Americans handled these coins without any sense that they might one day become the center of intense debate, speculation, and fascination. Yet the year 1902 sits at a crucial point in American minting history, a time when technology was evolving, quality control was inconsistent, and human involvement in the minting process created endless opportunities for error. The United States Mint in 1902 was operating under conditions very different from today's automated precision. Dies were prepared by hand, planchets were imperfect, and machinery required constant adjustment. Every coin struck during this era carried the possibility of variation. Most of those variations were small and unnoticed, but a microscopic number became anomalies so rare that they challenged classification itself. These are the coins that collectors chase not because of what they were meant to be, but because of what they accidentally became. One of the most powerful drivers behind the astronomical theoretical value attached to certain 1902 1-cent coins is the concept of extreme error uniqueness. In the world of numismatics, value is not dictated by metal alone, nor by age alone, but by scarcity combined with story. A coin that exists in only one verified example, especially one displaying multiple catastrophic minting errors, ceases to be comparable to standard market pricing. It becomes a standalone artifact. Among the most discussed possibilities are dramatic die errors. Dies in 1902 were prone to cracking, chipping, and misalignment. A severely cracked die could leave raised lines across the coin's surface that are not damage, but frozen moments of mechanical failure. If such a die continued striking coins briefly before being replaced, it could produce a tiny number of nearly identical anomalies, or in the most extreme cases, a single example before total die failure. Double die errors are another category that fuels legendary valuations. These occur not during striking, but during die creation itself. If a die received more than one impression from the hub at slightly different angles, parts of the design would appear doubled. Letters could seem to vibrate. Dates could look ghosted. Portrait details could appear layered. A strong, previously undocumented double die on a 1902 1-cent coin would instantly become one of the most important discoveries in early U.S. copper coinage. Off-metal strikes elevate rarity even further. If a 1902 1-cent coin were struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, or even a foreign coin blank accidentally mixed into production, it would represent a coin that was never supposed to exist. The U.S. Mint at the time did not have the strict segregation systems used today. Human error allowed wrong planchets to slip through, and when they did, the results were astonishing. Mint mark anomalies also play a critical role. In 1902, mint marks were punched into dies by hand. A misplaced mint mark, a doubled mint mark, or even a faint ghost image from an overpunched die could transform an ordinary cent into a unique specimen. In extreme hypothetical cases, a coin showing conflicting mint characteristics could suggest die reuse or improper die preparation, opening endless debate among experts. The idea of a $5 billion valuation does not come from normal auction results. It comes from a convergence of extreme assumptions. A coin would need to be the only known example of its error type, authenticated beyond doubt, preserved in exceptional condition, and introduced to the market under circumstances where multiple elite collectors compete not for profit, but for historical dominance. At that level, coins are no longer purchased as currency or even collectibles. They become trophies. Another layer of intrigue comes from the persistent mislabeling of early cents as Lincoln pennies. This widespread misunderstanding has caused many 1902 coins to be overlooked, improperly catalogued, or dismissed entirely. Ironically, this confusion increa Whether you're a lifelong coin collector, a curious beginner, or someone who just happened to stumble upon an old penny and wondered if it might be worth something extraordinary, you're in the right place. Now, we're diving deep into the fascinating, surprising, and often misunderstood story of the 1987 Liberty 1-cent coin, commonly known as the Lincoln penny, a coin with a face value of just 1 cent, yet surrounded by stories, theories, and possibilities that have pushed its imagined worth into the astonishing realm of $4,660,000,000. At first glance, the 1987 Lincoln penny looks ordinary. It is small, copper-colored, and familiar to millions of Americans who handled these coins daily in the late 20th century. For most people, it was nothing more than loose change, something dropped into jars, left in pockets, or exchanged without a second thought. Yet history has shown again and again that the most ordinary objects can become extraordinary when circumstances align in just the right way. The year 1987 sits at a unique moment in U.S. coinage history. The Lincoln cent had already undergone a major transformation earlier in the decade, shifting from its traditional copper composition to a copper-plated zinc core. This transition alone created massive opportunities for inconsistencies, mistakes, and experimental anomalies within the minting process. While the official composition by 1987 was well established, the reality inside mint facilities was far more complex than most people realize. The Denver Mint, represented by the D Mint mark beneath the date, was producing hundreds of millions of pennies that year. High-speed presses, enormous production quotas, and constant die usage created an environment where precision was demanded, but perfection was not always achieved. Every coin struck passed through multiple stages, and at each stage, the possibility for error existed. One of the most significant drivers behind extreme theoretical valuations of the 1987 D penny lies in the concept of compound errors. A single error can make a coin interesting. 2 errors can make it valuable. But when multiple unrelated errors occur on the same coin, especially errors that should statistically never coexist, the coin enters a category that defies conventional pricing. Consider the possibility of a 1987 D cent struck on the wrong planchet. While rare, off-metal strikes are documented throughout U.S. mint history. If a penny were struck on a blank intended for a dime, foreign coin, or experimental alloy, it would instantly become a coin that was never supposed to exist. The moment such a coin is verified, it becomes unique not because of demand, but because of impossibility. Now imagine that same off-metal strike also displaying a dramatic double die error. Double die varieties occur during die creation, not during striking, and represent a permanent flaw in the die itself. A strong doubled date, doubled lettering, or doubled Lincoln portrait on a 1987 D cent would already place the coin among elite error varieties. Combine that with an off-metal strike, and the rarity multiplies beyond normal calculation. Mint mark errors add another layer. In 1987, mint marks were still punched into working dies by hand. This allowed for misplacement, doubling, tilting, and even over-punching. A dramatically doubled D mint mark, or a mint mark placed far outside its normal position, could indicate die mishandling or reuse. In the most extreme hypothetical scenarios, a mint mark showing characteristics of multiple punches could suggest undocumented die preparation practices. Strike errors further deepen the mystery. A coin struck with extreme misalignment, broad strike expansion, or partial collar failure tells a story of mechanical breakdown. If such a strike occurred simultaneously with other errors, it would represent a moment when multiple safeguards failed at once. Coins like this are not merely defective, they are physical records of chaos inside an industrial process designed for uniformity. Surface anomalies also play a role. Improper plating can cause bubbling, peeling, or missing copper layers, exposing the zinc core beneath. While common plating issues are usually worth little, an extreme, early-stage plating failure combined with other errors could create a one-of-a-kind appearance that challenges classification itself. The reason collectors speculate about multi-billion-dollar valuations is not because such prices are expected, but because at a certain level of rarity, comparison becomes impossible. When a coin cannot be compared to any other known example, traditional price guides no longer apply. Value becomes a negotiation between desire, prestige, and historical significance. Condition magnifies everything. A severely damaged error coin might still be fascinating, but a sharply struck, well-preserved example multiplies its appeal. If a catastrophic error occurred early, Now, we're exploring the mysterious and astonishing world of the 1995 D Liberty 1 cent, better known as the Lincoln penny, a coin that most people spent without hesitation, yet one that has become the center of extraordinary theories, rare discoveries, and value possibilities reaching as high as $4,530,000,000. At first glance, the 1995 D Lincoln penny appears ordinary. It carries the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design that has symbolized American values and resilience for generations. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial, a design that defined an era of U.S. coinage. Millions of these pennies were struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small d mint mark beneath the date. For the average person in 1995, this coin was simply change. For collectors and error specialists today, it represents a year filled with potential. The mid-1990s were a critical time in modern U.S. minting history. Coin production was operating at enormous scale, with presses striking thousands of coins per minute. Speed and volume were prioritized to meet demand, and while quality control existed, it was far from perfect. Every coin passed through multiple mechanical and human-controlled steps, each one introducing the possibility of error. The 1995 Lincoln cent is already famous in the numismatic world because of the well-known 1995 double die obverse variety, a coin that displays dramatic doubling in the lettering of Liberty and In God We Trust. Most of these double die coins were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, but the existence of such a major die error in 1995 proves one crucial fact: something went wrong during die preparation that year. When one major error is confirmed for a specific year, collectors begin asking a powerful question. If one mistake made it through, what else could have happened? The Denver Mint was producing its own dies, its own planchets, and running its own presses. While the famous double die is associated with Philadelphia, Denver was not immune to error. In fact, Denver's high output increased the chances of overlooked anomalies slipping into circulation. One of the most compelling possibilities behind extreme valuations of a 1995 D penny lies in the concept of undocumented double dies. Not all double dies are dramatic. Some are subtle, requiring magnification and expert analysis. Others may affect only certain areas of the design, such as Lincoln's ear, the date, or the mint mark placement zone. If a strong double die existed at Denver but only struck a very small number of coins before the die was replaced, those coins could remain undiscovered even today. Mint mark errors add another layer of intrigue. In 1995, mint marks were still hand-punched into working dies. This process allowed for a wide range of mistakes, including doubled mint marks, tilted mint marks, misplaced mint marks, or mint marks punched over previously punched positions. A dramatic double D mint mark on a 1995 cent would already be a significant error. But when combined with other anomalies, it becomes something far rarer. Consider the possibility of a 1995 D penny struck with both a double die obverse and a doubled mint mark. These are two separate error processes occurring at different stages of die creation. The odds of both appearing on the same coin are extremely low, but not impossible. Coins exist that prove multiple die stage errors can coexist. Then there is the possibility of planchet errors. By 1995, Lincoln cents were struck on copper-plated zinc blanks. These blanks were produced in massive quantities and shipped to mints before striking. Errors during blank production could result in underweight planchets, missing plating, incomplete plating, or contamination with foreign metals. A penny struck on an improperly prepared blank would carry visual and physical characteristics that immediately set it apart. Now imagine a scenario where a flawed planchet is struck by a flawed die. This is where numismatic theory begins to stretch conventional valuation models. A coin that combines planchet errors, die errors, and strike errors becomes a physical anomaly that challenges classification itself. Strike errors are another critical factor. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, partial collar strikes, and multiple strikes all result from mechanical malfunctions during the striking process. While many such errors are common and inexpensive, extreme examples are not. If a 1995 D cent were struck significantly off-center while also displaying double die characteristics, it would represent two independent failure points in the minting process. Surface anomalies further complicate the picture. Improper plating can create bubbling, peeling, or exposed zinc cores. While minor plating flaws are common, extreme and early-stage plating failures are not. When plating errors occur before striking, the design itself may interact differently with the metal, pr. My dear friends, if you've ever held a penny in your hand and thought it was nothing more than spare change, today's story may completely change the way you look at the smallest coin in your pocket. What we're talking about today is not just a penny, not just a piece of copper-colored metal, but a symbol of mystery, rarity, and possibility. This is the story of the Liberty 1-cent 1998 D. Lincoln penny, a coin with a face value of 1 cent, yet surrounded by theories, discoveries, and extreme possibilities that suggest values reaching as high as $4,510,000,000. At first glance, the 1998 D. Lincoln cent looks ordinary. It shows the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, calm and dignified, a design that Americans have seen for generations. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial stands in clean symmetry, representing history, remembrance, and national identity. Beneath the date is the small d mint mark, signifying that this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Nothing about it seems unusual, and that is exactly why its story is so powerful. In 1998, billions of Lincoln cents were produced. They were not created as collectibles. They were struck for everyday use, meant to pass quickly from hand to hand, from register to pocket, from wallet to jar. The U.S. Mint focused on speed, efficiency, and volume. Coin presses operated at incredible rates, striking thousands of coins per minute. Dies wore down quickly, planchets were fed continuously, and quality control was designed to catch obvious flaws, not microscopic or layered anomalies. This environment is where rare mistakes are born. The Denver Mint in the late 1990s was under constant pressure to meet demand. While the technology was modern, it was not perfect. Every coin passed through multiple stages before becoming finished currency. Blank planchets had to be produced, plated, washed, and inspected. Dies had to be created, hubbed, punched with mint marks, hardened, and installed. Presses had to align planchets correctly within collars, strike them with precise force, and eject them cleanly. Any deviation at any stage could result in an error. Most errors are minor and go unnoticed. Some are caught and destroyed. But a small number escape into circulation, and among those, an even smaller number carry combinations of errors that defy expectations. The year 1998 is especially important in Lincoln cent history because it is already associated with known and documented errors. The famous wide AM variety, where the spacing between the letters A and M in America on the reverse is wider than normal, proves that incorrect dies were being used during this period. While the most well-known examples are from Philadelphia, the existence of such an error confirms that die mix-ups were occurring within the minting system. When one error is proven to exist, collectors begin asking deeper questions. If one mistake happened, what else might have happened that was never officially recorded? The Denver Mint produced its own working dies, but the hubbing process that creates the basic design was centralized. A double die occurs when the die receives more than one misaligned impression from the hub. Depending on how severe the misalignment is, the doubling can be dramatic or extremely subtle. Subtle double dies are the most dangerous to overlook, because they require careful magnification and knowledge to identify. If a double die obverse or reverse existed for the 1998 D. Lincoln cent but was only used briefly before being replaced, the number of coins struck could be very small. Those coins could have entered circulation unnoticed, blending in with billions of normal pennies. Mint mark errors add another layer of intrigue. In 1998, mint marks were still hand-punched into working dies. This process allowed for repunched mint marks, doubled mint marks, tilted mint marks, and misplaced mint marks. A D mint mark punched more than once at slightly different angles could produce a shadowed or doubled appearance that immediately separates the coin from standard issues. Now imagine a coin that carries both a double die and a doubled mint mark. These errors originate at different stages of die preparation, making their coexistence extremely rare. Such a coin would represent multiple failures in the minting process, increasing its desirability exponentially. Planchet errors deepen the mystery even further. By 1998, Lincoln cents were struck on zinc planchets coated with a thin layer of copper. These planchets were produced separately from the minting process and shipped in massive quantities. Errors during planchet production could result in incomplete plating, exposed zinc, improper thickness, or contamination with foreign materials. A penny struck on a defective planchet often displays unusual coloration, texture, or weight. Some may appear lighter, darker, or mottled. Others may show bubbling, cracking, or peeling of the copper law. Whether you're a dedicated coin collector, a history lover, or someone who simply enjoys uncovering surprising stories hidden in everyday objects, you're in exactly the right place. Today's next journey begins with a coin that almost everyone has held in their hands, spent without thinking, or tossed into a jar without a second glance. It's a simple Lincoln penny from the year 2000, a Liberty 1-cent coin from the United States, yet this ordinary-looking piece of copper-colored change has inspired extraordinary discussions about value, rarity, and possibility. Some theories even place its potential worth in the realm of $4,470,000,000, a figure that sounds unbelievable until you begin to understand the layers of errors, mistakes, mint mark mysteries, and rare combinations that collectors dream about. The year 2000 was symbolic in many ways. It marked the turn of a new millennium, a moment filled with anticipation, celebration, and massive production across nearly every industry, including coinage. The United States Mint was striking coins at an enormous scale to meet circulation demands during a time when cash usage was still dominant. Lincoln cents were among the most heavily produced coins, and millions upon millions of pennies flowed out of the mints and into everyday commerce. The 2000 Lincoln penny continued the familiar design that Americans had known for decades. On the front, Abraham Lincoln's portrait faced right, bearing the words "Liberty and in God We Trust," along with the date. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stood as a national symbol, with a tiny seated statue of Lincoln visible between the columns. Depending on where the coin was struck, it might bear no mint mark for Philadelphia, a D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco proof issues. At first glance, nothing about the 2000 Lincoln cent seems special. It looks like every other modern penny. But in the world of numismatics, what matters most is not what is obvious, but what is hidden. By the year 2000, Lincoln cents were made from zinc cores coated with a thin layer of copper. This change, introduced in the early 1980s, allowed the mint to reduce costs, but it also introduced new opportunities for errors. Copper plating had to be applied evenly, bonded properly, and maintained throughout the striking process. Any disruption in that process could result in visually dramatic and technically rare mistakes. The minting process itself is complex and layered. Blank planchets are produced by outside contractors, shipped to the mint, cleaned, and prepared for striking. Dies are created through a hubbing process, where a master hub impresses the design into working dies. These dies are then installed into high-speed presses that strike thousands of coins per minute. At each stage, something can go wrong. One of the most fascinating possibilities surrounding the 2000 Lincoln penny involves double dies. A double die occurs when a working die receives more than one impression from the hub, and those impressions are misaligned. This causes doubling in the design elements, which can appear on letters, numbers, or even Lincoln's facial features. Some double dies are bold and easy to spot, while others are subtle and require magnification and experience to identify. The late 1990s and early 2000s were a period when several notable double die varieties appeared in U.S. coinage. This confirms that die preparation errors were happening during this era. If a strong double die obverse or reverse existed for a 2000 Lincoln cent but was quickly removed from service, it could have produced a very small number of coins that remain undiscovered. Mint mark errors add even more intrigue. In 2000, mint marks were still punched into working dies by hand. This allowed for mistakes such as doubled mint marks, repunched mint marks, tilted mint marks, or mint marks placed in slightly incorrect positions. A Lincoln cent showing a clear doubling or distortion of its mint mark would already be considered a collectible error. When combined with other anomalies, its significance increases dramatically. Imagine a 2000 Lincoln penny struck from a double die that also carries a repunched mint mark. These are two separate error events occurring at different stages of production. The odds of both appearing on the same coin are extremely low, which is exactly why collectors find such combinations irresistible. Planchet errors play a major role in pushing theoretical values into extraordinary territory. Zinc planchets intended for copper plating could be underweight, improperly shaped, or unevenly coated. Some planchets might receive incomplete plating, leaving exposed zinc that reacts differently to wear and oxidation. Others might suffer from bonding issues that cause the copper layer to bubble, peel, or crack. A coin struck on a defective planchet doesn't just look different, it tells a story about failure at the material level.